Ethan Clarke had been traveling through the outer sectors of the galaxy for months, trading goods, supplies, and information between human colonies and distant alien worlds. He had grown accustomed to strange markets, unfamiliar languages, and unusual customs, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for the trade he was about to complete. The alien merchant, a tall being with shimmering blue skin and multiple eyes, had approached him with a look of casual authority, as if offering something entirely ordinary. Ethan had negotiated carefully, exchanging rare minerals and technology with the merchant, and when the transaction seemed complete, the alien produced a small, young female alien named Mara. She stood quietly, her hands clasped, and eyes observing everything with sharp intelligence, yet there was a calmness about her that Ethan could not immediately place. The merchant declared her as payment for a debt, stating plainly that she was a slave. Ethan raised an eyebrow, unsure how to respond. Slaves were not something he typically dealt with, and yet the merchant insisted, presenting her as though she were no different than any other commodity. Ethan stepped closer, looking at Mara. She was unlike any alien he had encountered before. Her skin had a soft golden hue, and her hair flowed with a faint luminescence. Her eyes were large and intelligent, reflecting a depth he had not expected. She did not seem frightened or upset, but rather calm, almost regal. Ethan felt a strange sense of hesitation. He had been in risky situations before, faced dangerous creatures and hostile traders, yet this moment felt different. He did not know her history, her abilities, or even if she could be trusted. The alien merchant noticed his hesitation and gave a small, impatient sigh. "She is yours now," the merchant said. "Take her or walk away. The debt is cleared." Ethan nodded cautiously. He could sense that refusing would complicate his journey and perhaps even provoke the merchant's wrath. Slowly he extended a hand to Mara. "Come with me," he said softly, not knowing if she could even understand him. Mara inclined her head slightly and followed him without resistance. The journey to Ethan's ship was tense but uneventful. Mara walked alongside him, moving with grace despite her small stature, and her calm demeanor intrigued Ethan. She did not speak and he did not press her, unsure if speaking too much would frighten or offend her. He found himself observing her more than he expected. She had a quiet confidence, a presence that made him feel as though she understood far more than she let on. Ethan led her aboard his vessel, a moderately sized human freighter equipped for trade and survival in dangerous sectors. Once inside, Mara looked around the ship calmly, her eyes scanning every corridor, every console, every piece of equipment. Ethan realized she was studying the place carefully, noting details that most humans would not even see. The crew, a small group of human traders and assistants, gathered near the entry bay, curious about the new addition. Ethan introduced Mara simply, explaining that she was a slave received as payment. Some crew members looked surprised, others skeptical. Mara did not speak or protest, but her quiet composure seemed to command respect nonetheless. Ethan noticed the way she observed everyone, her eyes moving with calculation, taking in their reactions, their movements, and even the smallest details of the ship's environment. Something about her presence unsettled him slightly, though he could not pinpoint why. She carried herself with an elegance and poise that suggested she was accustomed to attention and authority, though she had not yet revealed any of it. Over the next hours, Ethan made her comfortable in a small cabin, providing food, water, and a place to rest. He treated her cautiously, speaking in simple, clear words, unsure of how she would respond. Mara remained calm, occasionally responding with quiet nods or brief gestures. She did not appear frightened, nor did she seem to recognize herself as lesser in any way. Ethan began to notice subtle hints of intelligence and awareness. She asked questions with simple gestures, pointing at objects or looking for explanations, demonstrating that she understood far more than he initially assumed. Each response from her seemed deliberate, careful, and thoughtful. Ethan started to realize that she was no ordinary slave, though he had no idea of her true identity or capabilities. That evening, as the ship prepared to leave the trading station, Mara followed Ethan to the bridge. She watched him and the crew with sharp attention as they coordinated navigation and prepared for departure. Ethan noticed that her observations were precise, that she seemed to understand the instruments and controls in ways that went beyond mere curiosity. She pointed at a console, gesturing toward a display showing nearby asteroid movements, and Ethan realized she was indicating a possible collision course. He adjusted the controls, following her guidance, and the ship shifted safely out of the asteroid field. Crew members looked at Ethan with surprise, and he turned to Mara with a mix of astonishment and curiosity. She smiled faintly, not in arrogance but in quiet satisfaction. Over the next several days, Mara began to show increasing awareness and aptitude. She learned the ship's systems quickly, watched the crew's routines, and even suggested minor adjustments to operations that improved efficiency. Ethan was both impressed and cautious. He knew he had received someone extraordinary, but he did not yet understand the extent of her abilities. Mara's quiet demeanor, her intelligence, and her calm observation made her a constant presence on the bridge, where she began to study navigation patterns, sensor readings, and even the crew's communication methods. Ethan could not shake the feeling that there was more to her than met the eye, yet he also recognized that this was someone who could become a valuable ally if he approached her correctly. One day, as the ship passed through a dense sector of space, a minor alert sounded on the sensors. Mara immediately reacted, pointing to a nearby ship that was approaching at high speed. Ethan and the crew initially thought it was a routine patrol, but Mara's gestures indicated danger. They quickly prepared the ship for evasive maneuvers, following her subtle guidance. As the situation unfolded, Ethan realized that her awareness and instincts were far beyond those of any ordinary human or alien he had encountered. The approaching ship did not attack, but the quick response had averted potential disaster. Ethan glanced at Mara with new respect. She had not only warned them in time but had displayed an understanding of strategy and prediction that was astonishing. Despite her abilities, Mara remained calm and unassuming. She did not boast, did not demand recognition, and did not exert control over the crew. Instead, she observed, guided subtly, and offered her insights only when necessary. Ethan began to appreciate the unusual balance of humility and power she displayed. He had dealt with traders, soldiers, and diplomats before, but none had combined intelligence, skill, and patience in the way she did. Mara's presence became quietly influential, her insights saving the ship from small dangers, guiding crew members toward better efficiency, and occasionally correcting mistakes without confrontation. Ethan realized that she had been underestimated by the alien merchant, who had believed her to be a simple slave. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan developed a growing respect for Mara. He began to treat her not just as a received payment, but as a partner in survival and navigation. He noticed her subtle gestures, her careful observation, and her ability to anticipate problems before they arose. She did not speak much, but when she did, her words were precise, logical, and valuable. Ethan felt a quiet sense of pride and curiosity, wondering who she really was and what she might be capable of. Mara's presence was transforming the dynamics aboard the ship, bringing a new level of awareness, foresight, and efficiency to their operations. Late one night, as the ship glided past a distant star system, Ethan and Mara stood together on the observation deck. The stars stretched infinitely, and the ship hummed softly as it continued its journey. Mara looked out calmly, her expression serene, and Ethan felt compelled to speak. "I don't know who you really are," he said, "but I can tell you're more than anyone gave you credit for." Mara turned to him briefly, her eyes reflecting faint light, and nodded. She did not deny it, nor did she explain. Ethan understood that whatever secrets she held, they were hers to reveal. Yet in that quiet acknowledgement he felt a connection, a recognition that he had not felt with anyone else on the ship. From that moment Ethan treated Mara differently. He asked for her input on navigation, sought her observations during minor threats, and allowed her to advise the crew. Mara accepted these responsibilities with quiet grace, never asserting dominance, yet subtly guiding decisions and influencing outcomes. Each successful maneuver, each small crisis averted, reinforced the truth Ethan had begun to understand. Mara was extraordinary. The merchant had misjudged her entirely, offering a powerful princess as if she were nothing more than a commodity. Ethan's cautious respect grew into admiration, and a sense of partnership formed between them that neither fully understood yet. Mara herself began to relax aboard the ship, observing the humans with a mixture of curiosity and subtle amusement. She had expected fear, suspicion, or disdain, but instead she found patience, respect, and quiet intelligence. Ethan's treatment had allowed her to test the crew, understand their culture, and assess their character. She realized that this human crew, and Ethan in particular, could be trusted in ways she had rarely encountered. Slowly she began to reveal her knowledge in small, measured ways, correcting minor errors, suggesting strategies, and demonstrating that her presence could enhance safety and efficiency. The crew began to see her not as a slave, but as someone vital to the ship's success. As weeks passed, Ethan's confidence in Mara grew, and he began to rely on her observations and instincts more regularly. She guided them through asteroid fields, helped predict solar flares, and offered insights during minor disputes or operational challenges. Her intelligence, poise, and calm demeanor became indispensable, though Ethan still did not fully understand the depth of her abilities or her true status as a princess. Mara had subtly established herself as a quiet authority, and the crew had learned to respect her input without question. Ethan felt a quiet pride in having recognized her worth before anyone else, even without knowing her full story. By the time the ship left the trading sector, Mara had already demonstrated remarkable skill, foresight, and intelligence. Ethan reflected on the journey so far and realized that the alien merchant had completely underestimated her. Mara was no ordinary slave. She was strategic, perceptive, and composed, with the potential to influence outcomes far beyond anyone's expectations. Ethan understood that his decision to accept her, treat her with respect, and allow her to demonstrate her abilities would change their journey, and perhaps their lives, forever. He did not yet know the full extent of her power, but he was beginning to see the extraordinary potential hidden behind the calm, golden eyes of the young alien he had accepted as payment. Ethan Clarke had grown used to life aboard his freighter, navigating the vast stretches of space with a small crew and handling trades that took him to distant planets and alien markets. Yet Mara's presence brought an entirely new dimension to his routine. Unlike anyone else he had encountered, she seemed quietly aware of everything happening around her. Her calm demeanor and observant eyes made it impossible to underestimate her. Ethan treated her with basic respect, giving her space, food, and a small cabin to rest in. He refrained from pushing her, allowing her to acclimate to the ship and the humans on board. Mira, however, had grown up in an entirely different world, where respect was conditional and kindness was rare. Her previous experiences had taught her that humans were unpredictable and that trust often led to betrayal. She approached Ethan cautiously, testing him with subtle glances, gestures, and questions to understand whether his kindness was genuine or merely superficial. From the first day aboard, Mira observed the humans closely. She watched how the crew worked together, how they communicated, and how Ethan treated them. She noticed the small acts of consideration, a crew member offering another a meal, Ethan checking on someone who looked tired, and even minor gestures of patience when someone made a mistake. These observations puzzled her. In her past, she had learned that the strong dominated the weak, that obedience was demanded rather than earned, and that kindness was often a trap. Yet here, on this human ship, she saw something different. The humans displayed patience, subtle intelligence, and cooperation that did not demand submission but encouraged contribution. Mira realized that humans had a form of strength she had never experienced before, strength built on respect, trust, and compassion. Each day, Mira observed Ethan with particular attention. She wanted to know if he was truly capable of leadership, or if he merely performed tasks out of necessity. She watched how he interacted with the crew, how he made decisions, and how he handled conflicts. Sometimes she tested him quietly, creating situations to see how he would respond. One morning, she accidentally spilled a container of minerals in the storage area, watching to see if he would react with anger, impatience, or understanding. Ethan noticed immediately but remained calm. He helped her pick up the scattered minerals, speaking gently and asking if she was all right. Myra's eyes widened slightly, surprised by his patience. It was a subtle test, but she noted that his reactions were consistent with the observations she had made over the previous days. Ethan treated others with respect and fairness, even when mistakes occurred. Mira also paid attention to human communication, noting that words often carried multiple layers of meaning. She observed how tone, expression, and timing affected interactions. She realized that humans valued cooperation and dialogue in ways her previous society often ignored. On the ship, crew members spoke openly, shared their opinions, and contributed to problem-solving. Decisions were made collectively whenever possible, and even someone with limited experience could offer ideas without fear of punishment. Mira found this approach intriguing. She began to adapt, learning to engage in conversation, observe reactions, and subtly influence decisions without overstepping boundaries. This required careful calculation, patience, and a keen understanding of human behavior, skills that complemented her natural intelligence and instincts. Ethan noticed Myra's attentiveness, though he did not fully understand her motivations. He observed how she seemed to anticipate events, notice minor details, and watch the crew with interest. He realized that she was far more perceptive than he initially assumed. Sometimes he would ask her opinion on a minor matter, such as adjusting a sensor or recalibrating equipment, and she would respond with precise insight. Her suggestions were often small but effective, showing a deep understanding of systems and strategy. Ethan began to recognize that she was not just observing, she was learning, testing, and preparing for something he did not yet understand. Her calm demeanor and subtle intelligence made him curious about her past and the true extent of her abilities. Myra's curiosity extended to understanding human values and behavior. She noticed that humans acted with empathy, sometimes making decisions that prioritized others' safety or well-being over personal gain. She compared this to her own experiences, where survival often required ruthlessness, deception, or aggression. Humans, she realized, could display strength in cooperation rather than domination. They could achieve more collectively than individually, and they valued insight, foresight, and reason alongside physical ability. Mira began to appreciate this perspective, seeing potential in the humans that she had rarely witnessed elsewhere. This understanding influenced her interactions, allowing her to participate in subtle ways while remaining cautious about revealing her true capabilities too early. At mealtimes, Mira observed social dynamics and human customs. She noted how crew members shared food, engaged in light conversation, and included everyone regardless of rank. These interactions seemed to reinforce loyalty, trust, and camaraderie. Mira realized that the humans had developed systems that encouraged cooperation and minimized conflict through respect and inclusion. She compared this to her own society, where hierarchy and status often overshadowed collaboration, and individuals were valued only for strength or obedience. The differences fascinated her, and she began to adjust her behavior accordingly, engaging politely, asking questions, and offering insights in ways that the humans could easily accept. Myra's tests of Ethan continued in small, subtle ways. She would observe how he handled stressful situations, disagreements, or unexpected problems. One day, a minor mechanical failure occurred in the ship's engines, causing concern among the crew. Mira watched as Ethan calmly assessed the situation, delegated tasks, and reassured the crew without displaying panic. He explained his decisions clearly, and even crew members with little experience felt confident in his leadership. Myra's silent observation confirmed what she had already suspected. Ethan was intelligent, patient, and capable of handling crises. She began to trust him, recognizing that his actions aligned with the values she had begun to appreciate in humans. In the evenings, Mira would sit quietly in her cabin, reviewing what she had observed throughout the day. She took mental notes on human behavior, communication styles, and problem-solving approaches. She analyzed how crew members interacted, how decisions were made, and how Ethan led with respect rather than fear. Mira found herself drawing comparisons to her own society, recognizing the limitations of hierarchical control and the potential advantages of cooperation. She understood that her patience, careful observation, and intelligence would allow her to adapt successfully in this environment, even if she needed to conceal her true identity and abilities for the time being. As days turned into weeks, Myra's understanding of the humans deepened. She began to anticipate reactions, predict behavior, and subtly influence outcomes without asserting authority. Ethan, meanwhile, continued to provide her with space, respect, and opportunities to observe. He treated her as an individual, not as property or a tool, and this treatment allowed Mira to consider her role aboard the ship more openly. She began to see potential in forming a partnership with humans rather than viewing them solely as a means of survival. Her cautious curiosity evolved into measured trust, and her quiet intelligence became increasingly evident to Ethan and the crew. Myra's growing trust in humans was reflected in small actions. She began assisting with minor operational tasks, suggesting adjustments to navigation, and helping crew members identify potential issues before they became serious problems. Ethan welcomed her input, seeing the value in her observations and the precision of her recommendations. Crew members gradually noticed that her guidance often led to better outcomes, and while they did not fully understand her abilities, they began to treat her with greater respect. Myra's presence transformed the ship's dynamics subtly but significantly, introducing a level of foresight and analysis that had not existed before. Despite her growing integration, Mira remained cautious about revealing her full abilities. She had learned from experience that power could be dangerous if exposed prematurely. Her goal was to understand humans, their values, and their behavior before showing what she could truly do. Each observation, test, and interaction was carefully measured. She watched Ethan handle trade negotiations, crew disagreements, and minor crises with calm intelligence, confirming that humans had a capacity for strategy, cooperation, and resilience that impressed her deeply. Mira realized that aligning herself with humans could provide mutual benefits, and she began to consider how her abilities could be used to support them without revealing too much too soon. Mira also learned to communicate effectively with humans, using gestures, facial expressions, and measured speech. She asked questions that revealed her intelligence without drawing suspicion, offered insights on minor problems and gradually built trust with crew members. Ethan, recognizing her growing understanding, encouraged her input and allowed her to observe more critical operations. He began to see her as a partner rather than a responsibility, acknowledging her intelligence and ability to contribute meaningfully. This shift in dynamics allowed Mira to gain confidence and prepare for the moment when her true abilities would need to be revealed. As the ship traveled farther from the trading sector, Mira's observations became increasingly strategic. She analyzed potential threats, studied navigation patterns and anticipated environmental hazards. Ethan consulted her more frequently, noting that her guidance improved outcomes and prevented potential mistakes. Crew members began to accept her suggestions without question, recognizing that her intelligence and insight added real value to operations. Mira's quiet influence became essential, and her cautious curiosity evolved into a calculated engagement with the humans around her. By the end of several weeks aboard the ship, Mira had established a clear understanding of human behavior, values, and decision-making processes. She had tested Ethan thoroughly, confirming that his kindness, patience, and intelligence were genuine. She had observed the crew and learned to navigate their social dynamics. Most importantly, she had recognized the potential benefits of a careful partnership with humans. While she had not yet revealed her true identity as a princess or the full extent of her powers, she had gained trust, respect, and a clear understanding of how to operate effectively within this new environment. Mira's quiet presence on the ship had transformed from an unknown factor into a subtle but essential component of the crew's daily operations. Ethan valued her insights, the crew respected her observations, and she herself had grown increasingly confident in her ability to influence outcomes without overt displays of power. She had discovered that humans possessed a form of strength built on trust, cooperation, and intelligence, which complemented her own abilities in ways she had never anticipated. In understanding them, she had begun to see a path forward, one that would allow her to reveal her true capabilities at the right moment, to protect the ship, and perhaps to reshape the future for both humans and aliens alike. The journey through the outer sectors of the galaxy had been calm for weeks, with Mara observing, learning, and subtly assisting wherever she could. Ethan Clarke had begun to rely on her insights more frequently, though he still had no idea of the true extent of her abilities or her hidden status. The crew had grown accustomed to her quiet presence, her careful observations, and her subtle suggestions. No one suspected that the young alien, presented to Ethan as a mere slave, was in fact a powerful princess with skills and powers far beyond ordinary beings. Mara herself continued to keep her abilities in check, choosing the timing and circumstances carefully before she revealed them. She understood the importance of patience and preparation, especially when dealing with humans who were still learning to trust her. One morning, as the ship drifted near the edge of a star cluster, the sensors picked up an unusual signal. Mara immediately reacted, pointing to the readouts with precision. The crew initially thought it was a minor anomaly, a common occurrence in this part of space, but Mara's gestures indicated urgency. Ethan followed her instructions, analyzing the sensor data with her guidance. Slowly, he realized that a rival alien fleet was approaching at high speed, their vessels bristling with weapons and intent on interception. Panic began to ripple through the crew, but Mara remained calm, her eyes scanning the readings and adjusting calculations in real time. She seemed to anticipate the fleet's movements, predicting their course and speed with astonishing accuracy. The first attack came suddenly. Energy blasts tore through space around the ship, shaking the hull and setting off alarms. Crew members rushed to stations trying to maneuver and return fire, but the enemy was relentless and precise. Mara stepped forward quietly, her presence commanding attention despite her small stature. She gestured toward the tactical display, pointing at weak points in the alien ship's formation and indicating the safest flight paths. Ethan, though shocked, followed her guidance, adjusting the ship's position and issuing commands to the crew. The difference was immediate. Where chaos had begun, a calm efficiency emerged, and the ship began to evade attacks with skill that none had expected from the young alien he had received as payment. Mara's strategies were precise, almost instinctual. She anticipated enemy maneuvers, suggested countermeasures, and coordinated crew actions with a level of understanding that far exceeded Ethan's own experience. She calculated angles of attack, timing sequences for shields, and optimal routes for evasive movement. It was as if she could see the battle unfolding in layers invisible to the human eye. Crew members watched in awe as she guided them, her hands moving across consoles with confidence and clarity. For the first time, Ethan realized that Mara was no ordinary being. the slave he had taken was far stronger and more capable than anyone had imagined. The enemy fleet adjusted their tactics, attempting to flank the ship and cut off escape routes. Mara anticipated these maneuvers before they happened, instructing the crew to reposition with subtle signals and clear directives. Her knowledge of alien technology, energy manipulation, and combat strategy became evident as she guided the human crew. At one point, she extended her hands toward the tactical display, and a faint energy field emanated from her palms, subtly enhancing the ship's shields and redirecting energy to reinforce vulnerable points. Crew members stared in amazement, unsure whether to believe what they were witnessing. Ethan, however, understood immediately that the young alien he had accepted as a slave was displaying powers beyond comprehension, powers that could determine the outcome of the battle. As the engagement intensified, Mara's abilities became even more pronounced. She identified vulnerabilities in the enemy fleet, suggesting precise strikes and maneuvers that minimized risk while maximizing effectiveness. Ethan executed her recommendations, and the ship's attacks hit with unprecedented accuracy. Enemy vessels were disabled, their shields overwhelmed by strategies that seemed almost preternatural. Crew members, inspired by Mara's guidance, followed her instructions with complete trust, acting swiftly and efficiently. The tide of the battle turned, and it became clear that the ship, once at the mercy of a superior force, now held the advantage, guided by the alien princess they had underestimated. Mara's composure never wavered. She moved among the crew, observing their actions, offering subtle guidance and adjusting strategies in real time. Her awareness extended beyond the immediate battle. She monitored energy fluctuations, analyzed enemy behavior, and calculated the optimal use of resources. Ethan, though astonished, relied on her completely. He realized that her previous quiet observations, careful testing, and intelligence had all been preparation for moments like this. Mara had been learning, assessing, and waiting for the right time to reveal her true potential. The realization filled him with a mixture of awe, respect, and humility. The slave was not only capable, she was extraordinary. During a particularly tense moment, the enemy launched a concentrated strike aimed directly at the ship's core systems. Mara's reaction was instantaneous. She placed her hands on the control panel, and a wave of energy spread across the ship, reinforcing shields, stabilizing critical systems, and neutralizing the immediate threat. Crew members watched in stunned silence as Mara manipulated energy fields with precision, protecting the ship in a way that defied normal technological capabilities. Ethan felt his confidence surge. He had taken a gamble in accepting her as payment, and now that gamble had saved their lives. Mara had demonstrated not only intelligence and strategy but also raw, powerful abilities that could influence the outcome of life-or-death situations. The battle continued for hours, and Mara never wavered. She coordinated evasive maneuvers, guided weapon systems, and monitored every aspect of the engagement. Her presence transformed the crew's performance, instilling confidence, clarity, and focus where panic had once threatened. Ethan observed her closely, noting the calm determination in her eyes and the deliberate control she exerted over the situation. It was clear that she was not acting impulsively. Every action was calculated, every decision precise. Mara's abilities were formidable, and Ethan began to understand that her potential extended far beyond what he had imagined when he first accepted her as a slave. As the battle drew to a close, the enemy fleet began to retreat, their attacks faltering under Mara's guidance. The crew cheered quietly, though they remained vigilant, knowing that danger could return at any moment. Ethan approached Mara, unable to contain his astonishment. I had no idea," he said quietly, his voice filled with awe. You're incredible. Why didn't you tell me before?" Mara looked at him calmly, her expression serene. She did not respond immediately, allowing the moment to settle. Then, with a subtle gesture, she indicated that timing and observation were important. She had been assessing humans, their reactions, and their capabilities, and only now had she revealed enough of her power to protect the ship and its crew. Ethan nodded slowly, beginning to understand. He realized that he had not only underestimated Mara but also misunderstood the significance of her calm, observant behavior in the days prior. Her quiet presence, careful analysis, and measured engagement had all been signs of her intelligence and latent power. The battle had made it clear. The alien princess presented as a slave was far stronger, more capable, and more extraordinary than anyone had expected. Her abilities were not only physical or energetic but strategic, technical, and deeply intelligent. Mara's intervention had transformed a potentially fatal encounter into a decisive victory. In the aftermath, the crew began to recognize Mara's value. Her guidance, insight, and abilities had saved the ship in their lives. Ethan formally acknowledged her contributions, expressing gratitude and respect. He realized that the initial assumption, that she was a mere slave, was entirely wrong. Mara was no ordinary being. She was a powerful, intelligent, and capable leader in her own right. The battle had revealed her true nature, and Ethan understood that their journey together would never be the same. She was no longer simply a passenger or subordinate, she was a vital partner and protector. Mara herself remained composed, quietly observing the crew as they adjusted and repaired the ship. She allowed humans to take credit for actions they could perform while intervening only when necessary to ensure safety and efficiency. Her subtle approach reinforced the lessons she had imparted. Patience, observation, and precise action often achieved more than rash behavior or force. Ethan watched her, realizing that her methods combined intelligence, foresight, and power in a way that was both inspiring and humbling. He understood that he had been given an extraordinary ally, one whose full potential was only beginning to emerge. Throughout the following hours, Mara helped stabilize the ship, recalibrate damaged systems, and advise the crew on maintaining readiness for future encounters. Each action was executed with careful consideration, demonstrating her mastery of technology, energy manipulation, and strategy. Ethan realized that she had not only saved them in the immediate battle but had also provided knowledge and guidance that would prevent future catastrophes. The initial perception of her as a powerless slave had been shattered, replaced by a deep respect for her abilities and understanding of her true potential. By the time the ship had regained a safe trajectory and the crew had recovered from the battle, Ethan reflected on the events. Mara had demonstrated extraordinary skill, courage, and intelligence. The slave he had taken as payment was in fact a powerful princess with abilities far beyond what he had imagined. He recognized that their journey had shifted dramatically. No longer was she merely a companion, she was an essential part of their survival and success. Ethan understood that trusting her, treating her with respect, and observing her carefully had revealed an ally of incomparable value. Mara's hidden power had been unveiled and the crew, guided by her abilities, had survived what could have been a deadly encounter. The aftermath of the battle left the human crew both exhausted and in awe of the young alien they had once assumed was a powerless slave. Mara, standing quietly on the bridge, observed the repairs being made and the systems being recalibrated. Her energy manipulation and strategic guidance had not only saved the ship but had prevented countless casualties. Crew members whispered in hushed tones, sharing their amazement at her calm composure and effective leadership. They began to understand that she was no ordinary alien. Her intelligence, insight, and abilities had changed the course of the battle entirely. Ethan Clarke, standing beside her, watched as the crew slowly approached her, seeking guidance and confirmation about their next steps. Ethan felt a profound shift in his perception of Mara. What had begun as cautious curiosity had transformed into deep respect and acknowledgement. He realized that his initial assumption, that she was a slave with no value beyond her presence, was completely wrong. Mara's actions had proven her worth far beyond physical or social expectations. She had demonstrated a combination of courage, intelligence, and technical skill that surpassed even the most experienced crew members. Ethan began to speak to her differently, consulting her not out of obligation but out of genuine recognition of her abilities. His words carried respect, trust, and a quiet understanding that she was now an equal partner in the operation of the ship. The crew too gradually shifted their attitudes. They approached Mara not with suspicion or caution but with interest and willingness to learn. They asked for her input on repairs, navigation, and defensive strategies. She provided guidance with a calm authority, her subtle gestures and precise instructions instilling confidence in the human crew. Even those who had been skeptical initially began to recognize that her intelligence and skill were indispensable. Her quiet leadership encouraged the crew to work more efficiently, make better decisions, and trust one another in ways they had not before. Mara's presence had transformed the dynamic aboard the ship, creating an environment where respect, collaboration, and insight were valued over simple hierarchy or power. News of Mara's contributions quickly spread throughout the human fleet. Other ships, witnessing reports of the engagement, expressed amazement at how a young alien had guided a human crew to victory. Communications from allied fleets included messages of congratulations, curiosity, and requests for advice. Mara's reputation as a strategist and powerful figure began to grow, and even alien allies who had previously treated humans with caution approached her with respect. Her quiet demeanor, combined with her evident abilities, commanded recognition. Ethan, seeing these developments, realized that he was not the only one who had underestimated her and that her influence would extend far beyond the immediate crew. At one point, during a debriefing with nearby Allied ships, Mara was formally recognized for her role in the engagement. Leaders and commanders, both human and alien, acknowledged her contributions and requested her advice on future operations. She spoke with clarity, precision, and calm authority, guiding decisions without asserting dominance unnecessarily. Her insights were consistently accurate, and her suggestions were implemented with confidence. Ethan stood beside her quietly, proud that she had earned this respect through her actions rather than seeking it through assertion. For the first time, the crew and their allies understood the depth of her power, not only in terms of energy manipulation but in strategy, leadership, and intelligence. The revelation of her true identity as a princess came shortly thereafter. An alien envoy arrived to verify her status, observing her demeanor, abilities, and the crew's interactions. Mara did not deny her heritage. Instead, she revealed it calmly, explaining that her presence among humans was voluntary and that she had chosen to assist them out of strategic necessity and genuine trust in Ethan's leadership. The crew listened in awe as her background was confirmed. The young alien they had assumed was a slave was, in fact, royalty with abilities far exceeding normal expectations. The shift in perception was immediate. Humans and aliens alike began treating her not as a subordinate but as a leader, strategist, and respected figure whose insight could influence decisions across multiple worlds. Ethan, observing the reactions, felt a quiet satisfaction. He had known Mara was extraordinary, but the formal recognition and revelation of her identity reinforced the truth he had discovered firsthand. She had been underestimated, undervalued, and misjudged by her previous captors, yet she had proven her worth through intellect, skill, and courage. The bond of trust between Ethan and Mara deepened as they worked together to navigate the complexities of interstellar politics, fleet operations, and ongoing missions. Mara's calm presence and strategic mind became central to the success of the ship, inspiring confidence and respect from the entire crew. In the following days, Mara began to advise not only on immediate operations but also on longer-term strategies. She provided insight into alien technologies, energy systems, and tactics that were unfamiliar to humans. Crew members learned from her subtly, adjusting their methods based on her guidance and improving overall efficiency. Mara's influence extended beyond technical expertise. She modeled patience, calculated decision-making, and the importance of observing before acting. Her example reshaped the way humans approach challenges, emphasizing strategy, foresight, and collaboration over impulsive action or reliance on brute force. The revelation of her abilities and status also changed how other alien species viewed the humans on the ship. Mara's choice to ally herself with Ethan and his crew signaled that humans were trustworthy, capable, and deserving of respect. Previously skeptical or cautious allies began engaging more openly, seeking cooperation rather than competition. Mara's presence as a respected figure bridged gaps between species, fostering communication and alliances that had previously seemed unlikely. Ethan recognized the significance of this influence. The young alien he had received as payment had become a symbol of human-alien cooperation and a living example of the value of respect, intelligence, and careful judgment. As Mara continued to guide the crew, her calm authority became a stabilizing force. Minor disputes were resolved efficiently, repairs and operations were optimized, and strategic decisions were made with increased confidence. Her insight often anticipated problems before they arose, allowing preventive measures to be implemented seamlessly. Ethan relied on her judgment more than ever, understanding that her abilities and intelligence were crucial not only for survival but for the long-term success of their missions. Crew members, too, began to trust her instincts implicitly, recognizing that her guidance often led to favorable outcomes even in uncertain circumstances. During a council meeting with Allied fleets, Mara's contributions were formally acknowledged. Leaders praised her strategic mind, her decisive actions during the battle, and the manner in which she had enhanced human-alien relations. Her calm demeanor and quiet authority commanded attention without intimidation. Ethan stood beside her, silently proud that the young alien he had once accepted as a slave had emerged as a figure of respect and influence. Mara's abilities had shifted perceptions, demonstrating that power and leadership could exist in unexpected forms and that intelligence, insight, and courage were as valuable as any physical capability. Ethan and Mara also worked together to establish protocols for future operations, ensuring that the crew and allies could maximize efficiency while minimizing risk. Mara provided insight into alien behavior, energy manipulation, and tactical advantage, guiding the humans in ways that expanded their understanding of the galaxy. Crew members adapted to her guidance, learning to integrate her strategies into daily routines and mission planning. The ship operated with a newfound confidence, its crew inspired by Mara's presence and strategic leadership. Ethan recognized that the young alien's abilities were not just a personal asset, they were transforming the way humans approach challenges, fostering a culture of respect, trust, and collaboration. Mara, aware of the responsibilities her revealed status carried, maintained her calm and measured approach. She did not flaunt her powers or demand attention, instead using her abilities to guide, support, and enhance the efforts of those around her. Crew members learned from her example, understanding the importance of observation, careful decision-making, and the value of listening to insight regardless of its source. Ethan, witnessing the subtle transformation in both the crew and their alien allies, felt a sense of pride and satisfaction. He realized that their alliance with Mara had brought not only immediate survival but also a lasting shift in perspective and cooperation. The revelation of Mara's identity also strengthened the bond between her and Ethan. He had treated her with respect from the beginning, allowing her to demonstrate her abilities on her own terms. Now, with her status confirmed and her contributions recognized, their partnership became more balanced, built on mutual respect, trust, and shared responsibility. Mara continued to guide him and the crew in strategic and technical matters, and Ethan relied on her counsel with increasing confidence. Together, they forged a stronger team, capable of navigating challenges, forming alliances, and facing dangers that would have overwhelmed them individually. Mara's influence extended to the larger fleet as well. Reports of her guidance, strategy, and abilities circulated quickly, earning admiration and respect from other human and alien leaders. Communications emphasized her calm composure, intelligence, and effectiveness in crisis situations. She became a symbol of cooperation and potential, showing that strength was not limited to physical power or conventional leadership roles. Ethan recognized that her presence had shifted not only the dynamics aboard his ship but also broader perceptions across multiple worlds. Mara's alliance with humans was changing relationships, fostering trust, and creating new opportunities for collaboration. In the days that followed, Mara continued to serve as a trusted advisor. She guided missions, provided strategic insight, and helped crew members navigate challenges with skill and foresight. Her calm authority and subtle guidance ensured that the ship operated efficiently and effectively, even under pressure. Crew members adapted to her leadership style, valuing observation, thoughtful analysis, and measured action over rash decisions or brute force. Mara's presence reinforced the lessons she had demonstrated during the battle, showing that intelligence, patience, and skill could achieve more than fear or domination. By the time the fleet reached calmer sectors of space, Mara's status as a respected leader, strategist, and princess was firmly established. Humans and allies alike acknowledged her contributions, sought her advice, and recognized her as an essential figure in interstellar operations. Ethan, reflecting on the journey, understood that the choice to accept her as payment had brought far more than he could have anticipated. Mara had revealed not only her power but also her wisdom, courage, and ability to inspire trust and cooperation across species. The young alien who had been presented as a slave had emerged as a symbol of respect, alliance, and intelligence, transforming the ship, its crew, and the perception of humanity across the galaxy. After the revelations of her power and status, Mara had many choices to make. She could return to her home world and assume her role as princess, resuming the life she had been born into. Yet she had seen the humans' courage, intelligence, and kindness firsthand. She had experienced their capacity for compassion, teamwork, and trust, qualities rare in her own world. Mara decided that she would stay with Ethan Clarke and the human crew, not out of necessity, but out of genuine belief in their potential. Her choice surprised many allies and humans alike, but it was a deliberate and thoughtful decision, reflecting her understanding that true strength was not always obvious, and that sometimes the most unlikely partnerships could achieve extraordinary results. Ethan observed Mara's decision with quiet satisfaction. He had respected her from the beginning, recognizing intelligence and potential even when others dismissed her. Now, seeing her actively choose to remain with humans, he felt a sense of pride, not in himself but in humanity. They had treated her as an individual, not a tool, not a commodity, and not a threat. They had seen value where others ignored it. Mara's choice was a confirmation that their approach had been correct, that patience, respect, and understanding could foster trust, loyalty, and extraordinary alliances. Her presence among them was a testament to the principles Ethan and his crew had followed for so long, that worth is not always visible, and sometimes it is hidden behind appearances and assumptions. In the weeks that followed, Mara worked closely with the humans to solidify their partnership. She shared knowledge of her people's technology, energy systems, and strategies, providing guidance that allowed humans to expand their understanding of the galaxy. Fleet commanders sought her advice on navigation, defense, and diplomacy, recognizing her expertise. Mara's insights helped prevent conflicts before they arose, provided solutions to technical challenges, and encouraged cooperation between human and alien allies. Her calm authority and quiet confidence made her a natural leader, yet she never demanded recognition or dominance. She taught by example, showing that leadership could be based on intelligence, foresight, and respect rather than fear or force. Ethan found that working alongside Mara had changed him as well. He had always valued competence, courage, and careful judgment, but her presence heightened his appreciation for subtler qualities like insight, patience, and the ability to inspire cooperation. Together, they began forming a stronger alliance across multiple worlds. Humans and aliens started to see one another not as rivals or threats, but as partners who could learn from each other and achieve more together. Mara's guidance demonstrated that strength could come from unexpected sources, and that alliances built on trust and respect were far more durable than those built on dominance or fear. During council meetings and interstellar negotiations, Mara's presence brought attention and respect. Aliens who had previously dismissed humans as weak or inexperienced now recognized the value of their potential. Humans, in turn, learned to appreciate their own strengths and the importance of collaboration. Mara became a bridge between species, teaching lessons not only through her actions but through her example. She emphasized observation, careful analysis, and the understanding that intelligence and power could manifest in many forms. By guiding humans and other species, she helped redefine what it meant to be strong, proving that true power was not always physical or obvious. It could be hidden, subtle, and profound. Ethan watched as Mara interacted with diplomats, leaders, and crew members alike. She maintained her calm, measured demeanor while influencing decisions in meaningful ways. She did not act out of arrogance or the need for recognition. Her actions were deliberate, strategic, and thoughtful. Mara showed the humans that leadership required understanding, patience, and the ability to see potential where others did not. Through her guidance, humanity's role in the galaxy expanded, with new alliances forming and old prejudices being challenged. The humans aboard Ethan's ship became examples of what could be achieved when respect, trust, and intelligence were valued alongside bravery and strength. On the ship, Mara's influence also reshaped daily life. Crew members adopted more collaborative approaches to problem-solving, consulted one another before making critical decisions, and relied on observation and strategy rather than impulsive action. Mara encouraged them to think critically, anticipate challenges, and work together, creating a culture of mutual respect and careful judgment. Ethan noticed the difference immediately. Tasks that had once caused friction were now handled smoothly, minor errors were corrected before they escalated, and the crew demonstrated confidence and competence that had not existed before her arrival. Mara's presence had instilled not only skill and knowledge but also an ethos of collaboration, patience, and respect that strengthened the human crew. Beyond the ship, Mara worked to establish diplomatic connections. She engaged with alien fleets, shared insights on human capabilities, and demonstrated the benefits of cooperation. Her calm authority inspired confidence, her intelligence commanded respect, and her example helped humans earn credibility across previously hostile sectors. Mara's approach was subtle yet effective. She did not force alliances but allowed her actions and guidance to show the value of trust and collaboration. Through her influence, humans began to be seen as more than just a fledgling species. They were recognized as capable partners, worthy of alliances and collaboration, able to contribute strategically, intellectually, and diplomatically. Ethan found that his relationship with Mara had transformed from cautious responsibility into a partnership built on mutual trust and respect. He relied on her judgment in critical situations, knowing that her insight and abilities could guide them safely through challenges. Mara, in turn, trusted humans to act thoughtfully, to value intelligence, and to recognize potential beyond appearances. Together, they became an effective team, capable of navigating dangerous sectors, forming alliances, and guiding others with clarity and precision. Their cooperation demonstrated the power of mutual respect, trust, and understanding in achieving extraordinary outcomes. Mara also focused on mentoring crew members. She encouraged humans to develop their skills, to think critically, and to anticipate problems before they arose. Her guidance emphasized observation, calculation, and strategic foresight. Crew members who had once doubted her now sought her advice, learning not only technical skills but also approaches to leadership and problem-solving. Mara's mentorship fostered growth, confidence, and adaptability, allowing the human crew to become stronger, smarter, and more capable than ever before. Ethan recognized that her influence extended far beyond individual actions. She was reshaping the very nature of human capability in the galaxy. The humans quickly realized that Mara's presence was a turning point. Where they had once relied primarily on force, experience, and technology, they now incorporated intelligence, strategy, and foresight into every decision. Mara's guidance had opened their eyes to the power of subtlety, observation, and collaboration. They understood that true strength often lay hidden, revealed only through careful attention, patience, and the willingness to see potential where others had failed to notice it. Mara's example became a lesson not only in capability but in perspective, teaching humans that appearances were not always a reliable measure of value or power. As alliances grew across multiple worlds, Mara's reputation as a strategic advisor, mentor, and powerful presence became widely known. Humans began to be seen as capable, trustworthy partners, with Mara as a bridge between species. Her calm authority, intelligence, and guidance had reshaped relationships, fostering collaboration and trust where suspicion and competition had once prevailed. Ethan quietly observed the transformation, proud that humanity's approach, respect, patience, and recognition of potential had been validated by Mara's choice and continued guidance. He understood that humanity's strength was not always in dominance, technology, or physical ability, but in the ability to see value where others ignored it. Despite the recognition and accolades, Mara remained composed. She did not seek praise, status, or power. Instead, she focused on guiding humans and allies toward understanding, cooperation, and strategic success. She used her abilities to enhance outcomes subtly, mentoring, advising, and influencing where necessary. Mara's presence became a stabilizing and transformative force, not only on Ethan's ship but across the wider fleet and allied networks. Humans learned to appreciate and embrace their own abilities, building confidence and capability in ways they had not before encountering her. Ethan and Mara continued to work together, their partnership strengthening with each mission, alliance, and challenge. Mara's guidance had not only saved lives and reshaped strategy but had also fundamentally altered human-alien relations. Humans were now recognized for their intelligence, insight, and ability to cooperate, and Mara's influence was central to this change. She had chosen to stay, not out of obligation, but out of belief in humanity's potential. Her presence proved that leadership and strength could manifest in unexpected forms and that true value was often hidden, requiring observation, respect, and understanding to be recognized. In private moments, Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought Mara into his life. From the moment he accepted her as payment, treating her with respect and patience, to witnessing her reveal her hidden abilities, he realized that humanity's strength lay not only in skill or courage but in the ability to recognize worth where others overlooked it. Mara had chosen to stay, to trust humans, and to guide them toward a better future, and in doing so she had shown the transformative power of collaboration, respect, and understanding. Her quiet leadership had created a new order, a partnership across species, a reshaping of alliances, and a demonstration that strength is often found where it is least expected. Mara's decision to remain with humans solidified her role as a trusted advisor, mentor, and leader. She continued to guide Ethan and the crew, expand alliances, and provide insight that enhanced human understanding and influence across multiple worlds. Her choice, combined with her abilities and wisdom, created opportunities that had previously seemed impossible. Ethan watched quietly as she worked, proud that humanity had earned her trust and recognition. Mara's presence proved that true power was not always obvious, and that strength could be measured not only in force or skill, but in perception, intelligence, and the ability to recognize value in unexpected places. In the months and years that followed, Mara's influence continued to shape human-alien relations. Strategic alliances were strengthened, conflicts were resolved more peacefully, and human capabilities were recognized across sectors of the galaxy. Ethan continued to command his ship, working closely with Mara, benefiting from her guidance, insight, and careful judgment. Mara's quiet presence, combined with her strategic brilliance and decision-making, ensured that humanity's role in interstellar affairs expanded with respect and credibility. Together, they had created a new order, one in which collaboration, intelligence, and foresight were valued as much as courage, technology, and strength. As Mara looked out across the stars from the ship's observation deck, she reflected on her choice. She had stayed with humans because she saw potential, intelligence, and integrity in them. She had taught them, guided them, and reshaped relationships across worlds. Ethan stood beside her quietly, watching the same stars, sharing a moment of mutual understanding. No words were necessary. The humans had learned to see value where others ignored it, and Mara had chosen to remain because of it. Her presence, her guidance, and her powers had created a future in which humanity was respected, capable, and connected across the galaxy in ways they had never imagined. Ethan smiled quietly, knowing that humanity's true strength had been proven, not in force, not in dominance, but in the ability to recognize worth, to respect others, and to build alliances where others had failed. Mara had chosen to stay, and in doing so, she had cemented a new era of cooperation, understanding, and mutual respect. The journey that began with a simple trade had transformed into a partnership that would reshape the galaxy. Together, Ethan and Mara had shown that true strength often lies hidden, waiting to be discovered, nurtured, and recognized.